Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, wow, we've got something else lined up. We're not just looking at history or, typical
No,
science.
not at all. It feels like we're trying to decode a cosmic instruction manual, doesn't it?
Totally. We are strapping in for something genuinely monumental and, let's be honest, pretty esoteric. We're going right into the deep end, the inner laws of creation, consciousness itself.
Yeah, if you mashed up philosophy, physics, and metaphysics, and maybe gave it a slightly grumpy, channeled cosmic guide.
Right. This material would be like its super detailed birth certificate.
And the source for this mind bender? It's the Seth material, which has been hugely influential for decades in metaphysical circles. Specifically, we're diving into session 50 of the early sessions, book 2.
Session 50, that was recorded way back on Monday, May 4th, 1964.
50 sessions. Can we just pause on that for a sec? That's a major milestone.
Absolutely. Even Seth commented on it, congratulating Jane and Rob and himself, actually. He said, may I congratulate you, as well as myself, for our 50th session. It takes some doing on all of our parts.
And he wasn't kidding. He added 2 sessions a week is a very strict and heavy schedule. It really underlines the sheer dedication this took.
Right. This wasn't just casual chatting. It was structured, intense, week after week. And just a reminder for everyone listening, we're discussing and distributing this material totally free of charge on all platforms. It's purely for educational purposes.
And we owe a huge debt to Jane Roberts and Robert Buds for their commitment to getting this stuff down.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so our mission today. We're tackling these cosmic laws, the idea that matter itself might be conscious, the structure of the self, light stuff.
Easy listening. Stuff that makes quantum physics look like basic arithmetic sometimes.
Exactly. The goal is to try and distill these really complex ideas, infinite energy, conscious atoms, that kind of thing, into some aha moments for you, hopefully without tying our brains in complete knots.
And to set the mood a bit, the original session notes give us this great little glimpse into the human side of things. Jane Roberts, who Seth called Rupert, and her husband Rob, they'd actually taken a nap right before the session, until like 8:45 p.m.
Trying to recharge before getting downloads from the universe, I guess. But even then, logistics got in the way.
Yeah, there's this funny, kind of charming detail about them buying an extra tape specifically for Seth's promised party session.
Which I still want to know more about. What does a Seth party entail? Cosmic charades.
Who knows? But it sits right alongside the note about Jane, or Rupert, having difficulties because, as Seth apparently put it, patience is not one of his attributes.
So you've got this channel maybe feeling a bit antsy, dealing with everyday human impatience.
While transmitting these incredibly profound, sometimes chilling truths about reality. It's that mix, that grounding in the mundane that makes it feel so authentic and, yeah, sometimes pretty funny too. Cosmic wisdom meets slightly impatient human.
Okay, let's dive in. Part 1. The big stuff. Creation, value, and this idea of infinite energy. We kick off with the fifth law of the inner universe. Seth just calls it creation.
And right off the bat, he says the number, law 5, doesn't mean it's the fifth most important or anything. It's just for simplicity, for categorization.
Gotcha. So what is this law about? How does Seth define creation? It's not just shuffling things around, is it?
No, that's the key point. We usually think of creation like, building something from existing parts, taking wood, making a chair. The total stuff stays the same.
Right, conservation of energy and all that.
Exactly. But Seth says, hold on. Creation involves not merely the juggling of energy units and fields from one form to another, but also involves the setting up of new fields.
Setting up new fields, so creating genuinely new structures, new systems from scratch.
Precisely. It means creation isn't just recycling energy, it's regenerative. It's constantly introducing new possibilities, new potentials, new energy into existence, true innovation at the deepest level.
Wow, okay. And this engine of innovation, it's driven by something Seth calls value fulfillment. What's that about?
Value fulfillment is, well, it's a core metaphysical concept. Think of it as a cosmic imperative, a drive that exists outside our normal space and time.
Outside space and time, how does that work?
It's the fundamental urge of the universe, or all that is, to experience all possible potentials. It ensures that everything that can be experienced will be experienced somewhere, somewhen, because that's how the universe fulfills its own value through infinite, expansive experience.
So if something is possible, it's basically guaranteed to happen because of this cosmic drive.
That's the idea. Creation happens most often through value fulfillment. All possibilities are bound to emerge.
Okay, my head's spinning already. This completely messes with our idea of time, doesn't it, if something's bound to emerge?
Exactly. It means by the time anything shows up in our physical reality, whether it's a galaxy, a new species, or even just you listening right now, Seth says, it has already been in existence
Already been in existence. Or
in that dimension, outside space-time. As a potential driven by value fulfillment, our physical reality is just the end result, the printout.
so physical reality is like an echo.
That's a great way to put it. Seth calls it an exterior manifestation of a vital psychic reality that existed long before the physical thing actually appeared. The idea, the impulse, the psychic blueprint, that's the real deal. The physical object is just its shadow in our world.
That has huge implications for science, especially cosmology, like the Big Bang.
Right. Seth basically says that when scientists finally figure out the physics behind the universe's birth, they'll find it wasn't the absolute beginning.
What will they find then?
They'll find it was just the physical ripple, the exterior manifestation of that deeper psychic reality pushing itself into existence through value fulfillment. The Big Bang becomes the effect, not the ultimate cause.
Okay, effect, not cause. Got it. Now here's where it gets really wild, I think. The nature of energy itself. We're all taught energy is finite, right? First law of thermodynamics.
Can't create it, can't destroy it, only change its form. That's the bedrock of our physics.
And Seth just throws that out the window.
Completely. He states it very emphatically. There is not, as you may think, some definite, finite amount of energy from which all things must be created.
So the universe isn't running on a limited battery, it's not winding down.
Apparently not. He follows up with this absolute certainty. There is instead, truly, an infinite amount of energy, and of this I am certain.
Infinite energy, just let that sink in. It's not conserved, it's bottomless.
Seems so. It's constantly renewing itself, maybe even generating more of itself, like a perpetually overflowing fountain, fueling value fulfillment and the creation of those new fields we talked about.
So every time we create something, have a thought, build something, live our lives, we're not draining a limited pool.
According to this, no. We're drawing from an infinite source. It shifts everything from scarcity to abundance, fundamentally. Creation isn't a zero-sum game.
We're tapping into infinity with every action.
Yeah,
It's mind-boggling.
It really is. And what I find kind of brilliant, and maybe a bit funny, is how Seth handles the inevitable next question. Okay, infinite energy, but where does it come from?
Yeah, what does he say?
He basically says, don't even go there yet. His exact words were, do not ask me as yet where this infinite amount of energy comes from.
Why not? Is it a secret?
It's more that our way of thinking can't grasp it. He says, for one thing, I do not think in terms of cause and effect, and energy does not have a source in the terms with which you are familiar.
So the question itself is based on a limited premise. Cause and effect don't apply to the source of everything.
Exactly. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. The concept breaks down. The source just is. It's a boundless state, an isness that doesn't need a prior cause in our linear way of thinking.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to process just on energy alone.
All right, let's shift gears slightly. We've got infinite energy creating new fields driven by value fulfillment. Now, part 2 brings us down to the micro level, the gestalt of consciousness. How does consciousness fit into matter itself? This is where Seth directly challenges materialism. The common scientific view, or at least the traditional one, is that consciousness somehow emerges from complex chemical reactions, like in the brain.
Right, it's a product of biology.
Seth flips that entirely, he says, very clearly. Chemicals themselves will simply not give rise to consciousness or to life. Your scientists will simply have to face the facts that consciousness comes first and evolves its own form.
Consciousness first. So it's not a result of matter, it's the source of matter.
That's the radical claim. Consciousness is fundamental, the primary reality. Matter, chemicals, physical forms, they're expressions of consciousness, not the creators of it.
So if consciousness comes first, does that mean like atoms and molecules are conscious?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
He talks about them containing a condensed consciousness. They aren't just inert little balls bouncing around.
Yeah.
They possess an intrinsic awareness, a built-in knowledge.
Condensed consciousness in an atom.
Yeah.
And he also says they aren't bound by our time.
Right. They operate within our time framework when they form physical structures, but their core consciousness, their essential knowledge, is timeless. It exists outside linear progression.
Okay, if the basic building blocks are conscious, what about us? Our bodies, we feel like one unified me. How does that work if we're made of trillions of conscious particles?
That's where the traditional idea of a single mind controlling a dumb machine body falls apart. Seth finds that view quite far-fetched.
So what's the alternative?
He stresses that All the cells in the body are individual and have a separate consciousness. Every single one.
Every cell. My liver cells have their own little opinions.
Maybe not opinions like ours, but their own awareness, their own drive. And crucially, they cooperate. The body isn't run by top-down command. It's a massive cooperative venture.
How? How do they cooperate?
He says there is conscious cooperation between the cells in all the organs and between all the organs themselves. It's not just mechanical or chemical signaling. It's a form of conscious negotiation and agreement.
This leads us to the psychic gestalt concept, right? How do all these individual consciousnesses become us?
Exactly. A gestalt is like a whole, that's more than the sum of its parts. The atoms and molecules pool their individual consciousnesses together to form the consciousness of a single cell.
They merge their awareness. Do they lose their individuality?
That's the fascinating part. No, they don't lose it. It's described as an immense gain. By pooling, they form a new, enlarged, more powerful cellular consciousness. It's like individuals forming a team that can achieve far more than any single member could alone.
So it's additive, more consciousness, more capability.
Yes, and this pooling continues up the chain. Cells pool their consciousness to form organs. Organs pool their awareness to form the body's overall consciousness.
And maybe bodies pool to form larger entities.
He says this combination continues ad infinitum, forming larger psychic structures, personalities, entities we can't easily perceive. But even the smallest particle, the atom, retains its core individuality. Its ability just gets multiplied a millionfold by being part of the larger gestalt.
It makes the body seem like this incredibly dynamic, conscious ecosystem.
Absolutely. He says the physical body is truly a more wondrous phenomenon than is supposed. It's not the source of consciousness. It's a structure built by consciousness.
Which brings us to the brain. If the body is built by consciousness, what about the brain's consciousness?
Seth makes a really important distinction here. The pooled cellular consciousness results in the consciousness of the physical brain, but that's not the same as the mind.
Okay, unpack that. Brain consciousness versus mind.
Think of the brain as the super complex biological computer, built by this cellular collective intelligence. Its consciousness is optimized for navigating physical reality, processing sensory data, running the body.
Yeah, the mind.
The mind is something larger, more psychic. It's connected to, or maybe part of, the inner ego that deeper self will get to. The brain is the physical interface. The mind operates beyond it. The body, including the brain, is an attribute of consciousness, not its origin.
Wow. Okay, if cells are conscious individuals cooperating, this must have huge implications for health, right? Like psychosomatic illness.
Massive. Seth says psychosomatic medicine is basically in its infancy because it doesn't grasp this cellular consciousness.
How so?
He gives this really specific and frankly kind of chilling detail. When the overall consciousness, maybe the inner ego or even a strong subconscious belief, decides to cause damage or destruction to a part of the body,
Yeah.
permission is asked for and received or not received from the cells and organs involved.
Wait, hold on. If I consciously or unconsciously want to manifest an illness or an injury, my higher self has to literally ask the affected body parts for permission.
That's what the text implies.
And the cells can say, no, sorry, boss, not destroying the kidney today.
Yes. It suggests a constant negotiation is happening within us. Disease isn't just something that happens to the body. It might be the result of a complex, multi-level agreement, often driven by subconscious beliefs or desires.
That puts a whole different spin on personal responsibility for health. It's not just about diet and exercise. It's about your relationship with your own cellular community.
Exactly. It suggests real healing might involve changing that internal agreement, getting the cells back on board with health, aligning the mental intention with the cellular cooperation.
I might need to have a chat with my knees later. Seriously, though, that's profound. Okay, so we have conscious cells, psychic gestalts. Let's push further into part 3. Seth introduces 3 more laws here, 6, 7, and 8, and then gets into the layers of the self.
Right. Law 6 is basically a reinforcement of what we just discussed. He calls it the law of consciousness. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Everything has consciousness, condensed knowledge, and self-awareness to some degree. No exceptions. Rocks, air, everything.
The universe is fundamentally alive. Got it. What's law 7?
The law of infinite mobility. This is about how consciousness moves, or rather can move.
Moves where? Through time.
Not exactly through time in a linear way. The mobility happens within what Seth calls the spacious present. He defines it as an infinite spacious present.
Infinite spacious present, meaning past, present, future, all exist simultaneously.
Kind of. They're not fixed points on a line, but accessible fields within this larger now. Consciousness isn't trapped on a one-way track moving forward. It has infinite freedom to move within this present.
So accessing other times, other lives, maybe even parallel realities. It's not time travel, it's more like shifting focus within this spacious present.
That seems to be the implication. Our linear view is a function of how our physical brain organizes information. But the deeper self, the inner ego, isn't bound by that. It can access any point in that infinite field. This mobility is why things like psychic phenomena, channeling, maybe even recalling past lives are possible.
Okay, that makes sense, sort of. And Law 8.
Law 8 is the law of infinite changeability and transmutation. This really emphasizes the plasticity of reality, especially physical reality.
So
It states that any bit of energy can take on any pattern, form any field, leading to an infinite variety of physical forms. The potential for transformation is inherent in the energy itself.
it's not locked into one possibility.
Not fundamentally, the potential is infinite. And he gave that really striking example.
The arm and the ear.
Yeah. The cells or atoms in an arm could just as well form an ear as far as innate ability is concerned.
Whoa. So the cells aren't chemically destined to be arm cells forever.
Their innate ability isn't restricted. The restriction comes from the psychic blueprint, the intention, the overall gestalt agreement that's currently shaping them into an arm. They choose, collectively, unconsciously for us, to maintain that form based on the plan, but the raw potential is limitless.
Where is this database of potential, this knowledge stored, if cells can be anything?
It's housed deep within us, in what we might call the subconscious, but Seth links it to the generalized molecular consciousness. He calls it a condensed code-like comprehension.
He also calls them mental genes, right?
Yes, exactly. Mental genes. Like a biological gene carries physical blueprints, these mental genes carry psychic ones. And they contain all knowledge of the inner workings of the universe.
All knowledge, the entire cosmic library is inside us.
In a compressed, instantly accessible format, yes.
Why aren't we all knowing? Why am I still struggling to figure out what to have for dinner?
Ah, that's the crucial part. The knowledge is there, instantly accessible, but generally not to your everyday conscious self.
The self I think of as me.
Right. Seth calls that the egotistical I am. Your current personal awareness, the part of you focused on navigating and manipulating what he calls your camouflage universe.
Camouflage universe, meaning physical reality.
Yeah, the specific slice of reality your senses are tuned to. The ego is like the frontline manager dealing with the day-to-day of this specific world.
So who does have access to the mental genes, the big picture?
That's the domain of the inner ego. This is the deeper core personality, the larger, more powerful, fundamental self. It's the source from which the egotistical I am emerges.
So the inner ego is the real powerhouse, the projector.
Exactly. Seth describes the inner ego as the projector of energy onto our physical plane. It's the creator of you, the individual human being. It forms a replica of itself, tailored to function in a specific set of circumstances for specific reasons.
And this creation isn't random.
No, he's very clear. It's formed purposely and not in a random fashion. Your personality, your talents, your challenges, your life situation, they are all, from this perspective, intentional projections by your inner ego, designed for growth and value fulfillment.
And it's this inner ego that holds the mental genes, the full cosmic knowledge.
Yes, but it filters that information.
Yeah.
The outer ego, the I am, only gets what it needs to function in the physical world.
Yeah.
If you suddenly had conscious access to all knowledge, all timelines, you couldn't operate linearly. You'd be overwhelmed.
The filter is necessary for focus. Okay. The session also touches on how we actually get into and out of this physical plane, using specific inner senses.
Right, two in particular that work in opposition. To enter physical reality, the core energy personality uses the ninth inner sense, diffusion.
Diffusion, like spreading out.
Exactly. The vast energy of the core self has to break itself down, diffuse into smaller units, to engage with the density of physical matter. Seth even mentions the sperm as a specific entry point, a focus for this diffused energy.
So we arrive as diffused energy, which then needs to recombine.
Yes, using that Gestalt process we talked about, atoms forming cells, cells forming organs, to build a coherent physical vehicle.
And to leave, to become independent of the physical again.
You need the opposite inner sense, disentanglement, This is the process of pulling that diffused energy back together, reversing the gestalt formation, detaching from the physical structure.
Diffusion to enter, disentanglement to leave. It's all quite mechanically described, isn't it?
Very much so. These aren't just vague concepts. They're presented as the fundamental mechanics of how consciousness interacts with different planes of existence.
Okay, we've mapped out this incredible, almost terrifyingly complex structure of the self and its laws. But let's pull back again to that Monday night in 1964. Because this wasn't just abstract theory, it was happening amidst some pretty weird personal experiences for Jane and Rob. Part 4 brings us back to that human context.
Absolutely. It's important to remember they were actively experimenting with this stuff. Before this session, they'd been doing exercises in what they called psychological time, trying to consciously tap into that inner reality.
And they were getting results, right? These brief, vivid flashes of imagery.
Yeah, the notes meticulously record 3 specific visions they had right before session 50 started. They treated these glimpses like data points.
What were they? I remember one was a woman's face.
Right. First, a close-up, full-face view of a young woman with her mouth wide open. Then, something totally different. A workman installing interchangeable green walls.
Like something out of a surreal dream.
Definitely. But seen as evidence that their inner senses were starting to pierce the veil. Even the messages were fragmented or symbolic.
And the third one involved horses.
Yes, a high-angle, 3/4 view of the front halves of 2 black horses running. And Seth specifically commented on this one later.
What did he say about the horses?
He called it extremely interesting, but added that it represents only a partial comprehension, or rather a partially transmitted comprehension.
So confirmation that it was a genuine psychic impression, but maybe like getting only part of a sentence. The inner ego was broadcasting, but the ego receiver wasn't getting the full signal yet.
Exactly. It validated their experiments, but also showed the difficulty of clear transmission.
Now, connecting this back to the energy laws, especially Law 8, infinite changeability, there was that bizarre physical thing that happened during the break after all this intense metaphysical stuff came through, the swelling hands phenomenon.
Ah, yes, this is fascinating. Right after the main part of the session ended, Rob suddenly felt his right hand swelling or enlarging, and then his left hand too, but less strongly.
And Jane felt it too when he mentioned it.
Yes. They both experienced this distinct sensation. They noted they didn't measure it, but the feeling was undeniable before it faded.
So why would channeling information about reality's laws cause their actual physical hands to feel like they were changing size or density?
It really hints at Law 8 in action, doesn't it? Infinite changeability. If the body is ultimately energy patterned by consciousness, maybe the intense focus and flow of psychic energy during the session temporarily disrupted or altered the usual pattern.
Like the raw energy underlying the physical form momentarily surged or fluctuated?
Possibly. If the inner ego is constantly projecting energy, and they were deeply connected to that flow, perhaps the cellular gestalt of their hands responded to that unusual energy intensity, causing a temporary transmutation or expansion before the normal blueprint snapped back into place.
It sort of validates that idea that the cells could form an ear instead of an arm. The potential is there, and a strong energy flux might cause temporary shifts. That's pretty wild.
Teaches the direct link between the psychic energy state and the physical manifestation.
And amidst all this high-level metaphysics and strange physical sensations, they also had to deal with more mundane problems, like managing visitors.
Yeah, the practicalities.
Yeah.
The sessions were apparently getting known, and they had to figure out how to handle witnesses without disrupting the process or losing control of the material.
Which shows how seriously they took it. They weren't just casually channeling, they were protecting the integrity of the information flow. What was the solution they came up with?
It was pretty strict. Mondays, like this session, would be kept private, just them, to allow for deep, uninterrupted flow. Wednesdays could have witnesses, but under specific conditions.
What conditions?
Witnesses had to first go into another room and read the existing material while the session was actually happening in the main room.
Get out of here. So trying to channel cosmic truths and there's someone rustling pages next door trying to catch up.
Seems like it. A bit awkward, maybe, but it ensured witnesses had context. And they were super strict about the records. Only one copy existed, and it couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
Shows real dedication to maintaining control and privacy.
Definitely. And finally, Seth himself sort of managed the flow too, right? He didn't fully analyze those visions or the swelling hands in this session.
No. He acknowledged the personal experiences, but noted the metaphysical material had flowed so well that evening, he decided to postpone discussing the visions and sensations. He promised to use them as a starting point for exploring the inner senses in the next session.
Prioritizing the foundational laws first. Makes sense. Get the architecture down before analyzing the weird glitches in the matrix.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into Session 50, a huge milestone session, we covered some absolutely fundamental concepts, creation being driven by this cosmic imperative, value fulfillment.
Making physical reality essentially a manifestation and echo of a pre-existing psychic reality, which is a total paradigm shift. And the idea that energy isn't finite, it's infinite, constantly renewing, maybe even expanding, that alone changes everything.
Plus, consciousness isn't a fluke of biology, it's primary. It's in every atom, every cell, pooling together in these amazing psychic gestalts to form, well, us.
And our everyday self, the egotistical I am, is just the tip of the iceberg, the focused manager, the real power, the projector, the holder of the cosmic cheat sheet, the mental genes, is the inner ego.
Yeah, it paints a picture of reality that is just staggeringly complex, interconnected, and alive. It makes sense why Seth ended the session saying something like,
Oh yeah, that quote was perfect. The whole is never apparent in your universe. I am appalled completely. There are so many matters still not hinted at.
appalled. Even the source of the information is acknowledging they've barely scratched the surface after laying out these incredible laws. It really puts it in perspective. What we learned is foundational, but it's just the beginning of the exploration.
Absolutely. It leaves you wondering what else is out there, hinted at but not yet revealed.
And if this dive into Session 50 has piqued your interest, if you want to grapple with these ideas directly from the source,
Then we absolutely encourage you to read the Seth material books yourself. You can find them, including the early sessions, through the publisher New Awareness Network. Their website and bookstore are at sethcenter.com/early sessions.
that's where the real journey begins, engaging with the full depth and nuance of the material. It's powerful stuff.
It truly is. Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty intense exploration of Session 50. Hopefully you're leaving today feeling maybe a little more aware of the conscious universe within you and perhaps pondering that infinite energy you're apparently tapping into constantly.
Until next time, keep exploring.